project to find a new purpose for our, storytelling. We are known for telling stories. This time around, we wanted the story to focus on introducing this interesting, cool world.
Slowly, we formed this idea of this strange place, a world that you can explore, with the character with powers that are stemmed from both partially from these kind of older horror movies that feels like a superhero and connected with the kind of new weird setup.
I don't know if you're familiar with New Weird, but it's as a literary genre, it borrows aspects from science fiction and horror, and takes those things and twists them into something new and exciting and fresh. And so we were really inspired by that.
We're actually trying to get back to our roots a little bit and really building up great action along with that really interesting story.
For the fans of Remedy's games, it'll have that story, those unique characters, of course, but then I think the setting is something a lot more unique than what we've done before.
As a starting point, when you look back at Alan Wake or Quantum Break, we always started with the story. There's a character who goes through a certain type of journey, and then we built the world around it. Now, what we wanted to do was to basically turn it the other way around. Like, let's first build a world that we feel is compelling and interesting, something that we would like to see, and something that we feel people would like to return to. And then, once we have that world, we start to ask the question, okay, what are the different stories we want to tell within that world? What are the different experiences we want to have?
The main story of the game acts as an introduction to this world. It brings our main character Jessie into this world, and with her, the player into this world, and plunges them deep into this mystery.
Jessie Faden is a woman with a dark secret in her past who is looking for answers to this great mystery that she went through as a child.
She comes to this new situation and a new world, the world of Federal Bureau of Control, as an outsider, so she is a perfect point of view character to bring players into this experience. Jessie is a newcomer when it comes to the Bureau, but she has had dealings with these supernatural forces and the unexplainable before.
And that journey leads her to the Bureau and to the oldest house. She is driven, intuitive, haunted, curious, and I would say a compassionate person. And those traits really come out as she has her adventures.
And now at the beginning of this game, she finally comes to the place where she can start finding these answers. But it's an action game, so she will have to fight for these answers.
We're really opening up the options that we're giving to players and how they experience this story. It's far less linear than any game that we've ever built before, and we're making this really cool, interconnected world. And so you can revisit spaces that you've already been to before, and things might change about some of those spaces.
All of this is up to the player to pursue. There are a lot of secrets to be discovered, a lot of mysteries in this world, a lot of challenges that the player can take on.
And also from a storytelling perspective, finding ways to tell the story through the environment and the gameplay is important for us. And sometimes it's even better when there is a certain kind of subtlety and restraint as well, that you see hints of something in the world and you start to form ideas of what that was. You create the stories yourself. And relying on these type of elements more allow the player to see and feel and kind of play through the world in their own way.
With Control, we talk about it as it's a very sort of gameplay-driven experience, and what that means is we want to make sure that gamers can sort of control the experience, play it at their own pace.
Because of that, for storytelling, we have, we have found ways to make the story more flexible depending on how the player is going forward.
So the narrative in Control is different from previous Remedy games because it is less cinematic focused. There's a lot more environmental storytelling. Gameplay and story are working hand in hand to tell the plot and develop the characters.
Instead of just having a few levels that you can play through, we have a lot of different optional content that you can get involved with and get into the deeper lore of the universe. And there's a lot of surprises in there as well.
Thematically, the idea of being in control or losing control is very much at the heart of the story.
The Bureau has been invaded by an otherworldly force, and Jesse, the new director, has to regain control of the building. So really, control is in every aspect of the game.
Trying to control dangerous forces and then things going catastrophically wrong.
And then you have the combination between the gunplay, we're good at that, but we're bringing the supernatural abilities, and hopefully the mixture of those will create a really, really good sort of gameplay feel.
The player has these powerful supernatural abilities that allows them to control their surroundings, use the surroundings almost as a weapon against the enemies.
We really want players to be able to customize the way that they experience this game. And in that sense, it's going to be very easy to get into, but hard to master. So you may turn the corner and find an enemy that you've never experienced before, and you're going to have to customize your weapons and your abilities in order to overcome that obstacle.
Because we do want Control to be something that people who play a lot of games will enjoy, which means you need to have mechanical depth and you need to have a lot of sort of interesting challenges and combat for the players. So we hope to bring that, and then of course layer that with the story and the unique setting. So lots of things I think that will make the game stand out.
It's always that great combination of great storytelling, really interesting characters, a really cool world, and great high-action gameplay on top of it to pull it all together.
She has to master her supernatural abilities, she has to master her new role, and players will go on that journey with her.
What we now want to do is to make the player feel more involved and emphasizing the elements that are interactive and kind of relying on gameplay more.
We want to make sure that the player is in control. Control takes place in the headquarters of Federal Bureau of Control, a place called the Oldest House. It's this featureless, bleak, concrete, brutalist architecture skyscraper in Manhattan, in New York City.
A key starting point for us was to create this place that is sealed off from our reality. And through that comes certain kind of logical thinking that if they are that, it means that they need to be independent, they need to be autonomous. And that was one statement that helps us to define how to design this place.
So the inspiration for the look of the Oldest House is brutalist architecture, which actually, I'm from Washington, D.C., and the FBI building there is a brutalist building, so it's kind of fun for me to see that in our game. But it represents the idea of control. It's concrete, straight lines, rigidity, and meanwhile, there are these chaotic forces that are inside of it that contrast with that. So you have the hiss and you have these supernatural phenomena that sort of represent chaos. And so you have chaos and order clashing within the Oldest House. And that's kind of the theme of the game.
And looking at Jesse coming into this old bureau, which has existed for God knows how long, and bringing this breath of fresh air to the place. So when you look at all of these elements, you can see that there is that contrast, and contrast, of course, sets up conflict as well. And it is an action game, and conflict is at the heart of it, but it's not just the kind of gameplay level, but on kind of a thematic level as well for the story itself.
It's not just what you think is going on the surface. There's always something happening much deeper. And I think that we're going to have some surprises on exactly how deep this world goes.
We sort of think of it as a world within a location. It's this ever-shifting place full of mysteries and adventures for players to explore. And when we filled every corner of it with new weird ideas.
It's a very strange place, a place of power. It's much, much bigger in the inside than the outside would lead you to believe. Maybe even endless. If you know the right rules and rituals, you can keep on traveling deeper.
The sort of belief about the oldest house that the FBC has is that if you walk far enough in one direction, you could end up someplace completely different. So all kinds of strange things happen there. It's not just a couple of rooms in an old abandoned house somewhere. There is adventure around every corner, and it's up to players to explore that and see what they can find.
In the heart of this game is this secretive government agency called Federal Bureau of Control. And they are an organization that deals with the unexplainable.
And what they do is investigate and sometimes collect and bring back to their headquarters altered items, these strange objects that have caused phenomena out in the world. Some people call it supernatural, some people consider it, all kinds of weird psychic things. But they study these and sometimes store and contain them to keep the world safe from the effects of them.
An organization that has a deeper history than what it seems like initially. They have methods and bureaucracy in place, but it's always happening for a reason. And the key thing to us is that it is an organization that feels like there's a lot of mystery and history for that, and it's something that we are eager to reveal more of as the player goes through this place and tries to understand the relationship between the oldest house and the Federal Bureau of Control. The Bureau is facing a crisis that they have never seen before, and with that enters Jesse as well, which in its own way is a breath of fresh air into this environment.
Jesse is clearly meant to be a juxtaposition for what's happening currently in the Bureau. There's this old guard, old guys who've clearly let things go really bad, and then this young woman comes in and is gonna, set things right.
Yeah, I mean, it's a new kind of an experience that needs a new kind of a hero.
Feeling that Jessie has through her life is that she feels like she doesn't belong, and it comes sometimes from a place of her seeing a side in reality that others don't. She sees that there's more to the world than what people know of.
Jessie is not a stranger to the unexplained. Something happened in her childhood that was really tragic, very traumatic, almost cataclysmic, that affected her whole family, her whole town. And she's ever since then looked for the answers of what happened, what did that event change her into really, and that's the kind of answers that she comes to seek at the start of Control.
She maybe has a kind of an emotional connection to this world that maybe our previous protagonists haven't initially had. It's something that, even though she's not familiar with the place, as soon as she gets there, there's this strange connection that is born, where she feels maybe that in the first time in her life that she's arrived to a place where she belongs.
This now finally seems like potentially a place where she can start finding those answers she is after.
She's able to see that, hey, these things actually are part of my life, part of reality, they are true. So there's a sense of vindication that is happening as well.
And Bureau has been also looking for the answers, but their methods are also so different. Bureau is all about science, about order, and about researching the heck out of everything. And then Jessie has always had these paranatural things happen to her, kind of as a second nature. She intuitively understands these things.
Jessie doesn't belong to Bureau. In Bureau, everything, all the materials are durable and very functional and bespoke. So Jessie had to have very casual clothing, very worn out, and so she could stand out from the bureau officials.
Actually been amazing to have somebody like Heli working with us. We haven't done such detailed costume design before, where we have an actual expert, people who understands how clothes are created and designed, to look into it and work together with the actors and see what works and what doesn't work.
His costume design is not fashion design. Fashion design comes from the outside, and it concentrates on aesthetics features, but the costume designers build the costume up from the inside the character, so you have to express different things with the costume. So I see the actually character concept artists are costume designers, and the costume designers are character artists in a way that we are building the character up in a similar with the similar methods.
And when we started thinking about Jessie as a character, Courtney immediately came to mind that she would be perfect in this role.
Yeah, she's already familiar with our processes. She's run through the gauntlet once, so next time around it's going to be like even faster and cooler.
I'm looking at this as an experience that we built with people who we trust, and Courtney is one of those people.
I mean, I'm honored for sure, absolutely, that you guys would think of me for some a big new step in your storytelling experience. I mean, that in itself makes me really happy, and I'm excited to be a part of that kind of revolution of a new type of game. I'm super excited about it. I mean, the second Sam called me, I was like, it wasn't even a question. I was like, yes. And yeah, I mean, Jessie seems really badass, and I'm excited to play her.
You have to bring it.
Yes. I got it. I got it.
First character really that we were thinking about is a character that would represent the bureau. And we came up with the old director, Trench, first. Cynical, hard-boiled, kind of very strict. Yeah, I was actually, the going back in Remedy history, thinking about our different characters. I was thinking about one particular hard-boiled detective.
This guy's kind of a tragic figure, but a powerful one at the same time, and there's a lot of layers to him. And he does have his own agenda, which is a lot of fun to play with as well, while giving all the information that I can to Jessie, or eventually that I will to Jessie. But I still have my own agenda, so that there's some mystery there, which every actor appreciates, a little mystery about their character.
For Jessie, Trench is very essential because, as the director, there is a history, and there are things that have happened before, and even though she's got her own intuition and things that she's learned up until this point, there is a specific set of, I don't necessarily want to say rules, but ways to abide, to make sure that this oldest house is taken care of in the way that it's supposed to be.
Then we had to come up with the hero for this story, because Trench clearly isn't the hero of this story. And that led us to Jessie.
And she's immediately thrust into the position of being the director, and she has to step into really big boots, but then again, she does have that innate quality, she has that capacity to understand these things very quickly.
Because she's seen so much weird in her life, she's at home when she walks into the oldest house. The weird to her is oh my God, thank God, I'm not crazy. So I think she embraces the weird even more, because there's weirder things that happen in this house. Objects of power that are doing weird things and breaking things down, and it's there's an excitement to it, because she's okay, I'm not crazy, this is cool.
But of course, the situation being what it is, the whole bureau being invaded by the Hiss, there is a real danger and urgency that all of this will be snatched away. She has come, after all the years of searching, she has now come so close, and now there is a danger that all of this will go away.
This entity that she's is literally taking people over, and she's like, no, I will not be defeated by that thing. I'm going to defeat that.